This video shows some of the lighting in a game that I've been working on. This game is real-time path traced, and the lighting is a big part of what makes it look special. And specifically what I wanted to show is how the lighting changes over the course of a single game. So let me start the game. You can see the lighting does get darker and show some colors, but right here when the game really starts is what I wanted to focus on. So this lighting here looks quite a bit different than the lighting in that wait stage that we had before. So I'm going to go back so we can compare. So compare this with that. There are two main differences. One is how bright it is, and the other one is the color temperature. So this color temperature here when the game starts is 5000 K. That K is for Kelvin. That's the color temperature, but it also means what color the light is. Now this light looks white, but here in the intro, it also looks white, but it's a different kind of white. This is more of a yellowish light, going more towards orange. And when the game starts, it's more of a bluish light. Again, this is 5000 K, and this is 2700 K. This color, this more yellowish color, is what a classic incandescent tungsten light bulb would look like before we had all the LED bulbs. But you can still buy bulbs that have this color temperature. They're called warmer. They're more orange. And I spent a lot of time in my renderer being able to show different color temperature lights. Most games that I notice don't do this at all. They just have the single computer white. But if you took a screenshot of what we're looking at right now of that light bulb and put it in a paint program and use the color picker, it wouldn't be 255, 255, 255. Instead, it would have some yellow. And so in this game where I'm trying to show off some of the features of my graphics renderer, I wanted to show that, but also make it relevant to gameplay. So with that being said, let's actually start the game and let it run. This again is 5000 K. It's more of a white light, closer to blue than the previous one, but it's also pretty bright. If you look at the overexposed section when the light hits the walls, you can see that there's a really distinct white circle around it that kind of gets rid of all detail. So this bright of a light is about how you would really light this room in real life, but you'd use multiple bulbs to do it. So this is a really bright light bulb. But now it's starting to get dimmer. So over the course of a few minutes, this light is going to go from really bright to moderately bright. And my goal is that the player doesn't distinctly notice when these lighting changes start happening. Instead, I want it to be kind of a subconscious thing where over time the player says, oh, wait, things are different than they were before. I didn't even notice it happening, but now I noticed that it is different. And so the changes happen gradually. I don't want to make you, the viewer of this video, have to sit through that in real time. So what I'm going to do is just talk at important moments during lighting transitions, but otherwise stop talking and speed up the video so you can just watch the changes yourself. So for the next few minutes, watch how this light gets dimmer. It's going to stay the same color temperature. It's going to say 5000 K, but it's going to become dimmer. Okay, so the light is now become dimmer, and at the same time when I started talking, the temperature is going to start changing. So we've stayed at 5000 K up until now, but now gradually over the course of the next few minutes, it's going to transition from 5000 K, this cooler color that is closer to white, more towards blue. It's going to transition from that to 2700K, the color that's closer to orange and looks yellowish. It's the same color we saw in the intro. In previous videos, I've talked about the indirect lighting and how the lighting in this room changes because the floor is changing color and the light itself wasn't changing color. That's still happening. You've maybe noticed every time the floor changes color, we see that the way the lighting in the room feels is different. But now we're actually changing the color of the light over time. And so we get both short-term changes in lighting every time the light hits a block with a different color and the floor changes color, then we see some quick short-term lighting changes. But we're also seeing longer-term lighting changes over time. So again, we can already notice it a little bit. I don't know if it's obvious in the video, but the light is a little yellower than it was when I started talking. But it's going to keep transitioning over the next few minutes. So watch it get even more yellow as time goes by. Okay, so the light is now 2700K. Hopefully you can tell that both the light itself is looking a little more yellow, but also the lighting in the room. This is still a relatively well-lit room, but it's definitely dimmer than you would light it in real life. So it's still a bright single light bulb, but in a real room of this size, you'd have more lights lighting it up. So we're starting to feel a little bit different than when the game started. And the light, is also getting faster. So my hope is that from a game design perspective, the player is now starting to realize that, oh, okay, things are changing now. We as humans tend to associate those higher color temperatures with earlier in the day, like noon, and these lower temperatures where it gets more yellow and orange with later in the day. And so another aspect that I'm going for psychologically is that as time goes on, the player will feel that as it gets darker and warmer in color, that maybe the room is getting a little bit smaller or time is passing. And so we feel like, oh, it's getting maybe towards nighttime and the light is moving faster and I'm feeling a little bit frantic and more claustrophobic. So that was sort of my idea going for this. We haven't changed since I started talking. The light has stayed the same, although the light itself is moving faster. But in just a few seconds, we're going to start getting dimmer again. And if the player lasts long enough, I don't know if I'll last long enough. It starts getting pretty hard when the light's fast. But if the player lasts long enough, by the end, the light will be pretty dim. I wanted it even dimmer. I wanted it to be more like what a realistic light you'd buy at the store would look like in a room of this size. But when I tried that, it just was too dark, so it hurt playability. So I made some compromises, so it definitely is going to get dimmer, but not as dim as a realistic single light bulb would. But okay, so we are getting dimmer now, but still staying at the 2700K temperature, at least for now. So I'll be back when that changes. Okay, and now we're going to start changing the color temperature. So we were already at 2700K. Now we're going to move to 2400K. That doesn't seem like a big difference in terms of numbers, but something really interesting happens psychologically with the human visual system. Right now, the color the color of the light still looks white, even though it's a yellowish light. But as the temperature gets lower and lower, that doesn't happen anymore. It starts to look more orange instead of white. And so that's why I chose that 2400 color temperature, where it's not obviously offensive orange light, but it does start to look not white anymore. And that was another feature that I worked on that I was kind of proud of, so I wanted to do. But that will feel even more. I have a 2400K light bulb that I can compare with, and it definitely has a different feel. It doesn't really feel like a standard light bulb anymore. It's the kind of thing you put on when you want the mood lighting. So that's what we're going for. So for the rest of the game, depending on how long I can last, the light's going to get dimmer, and it's going to keep changing color temperatures to that 2400K. And also, I'm changing the way that the eye adaptation works. And so instead of looking white, the color is going to start obviously being more orange. So we'll see how long I can last. Hopefully I can last to 15 minutes, but if not, at least we'll see the change. You can already see it a little bit. If you look at that light bulb, it's starting to look different than it has the rest of the game. You can see that it's starting to look like one of those cozier, dimmed lights. So, okay. Keep watching and I'll be back when I'm about to lose. Okay, I'm about to lose, but we also almost made it. We're at 15 minutes. So look at the light, look at how it looks on the walls, and compare, because as soon as I lose, it's going to reset to that intro screen. So it's going to go back from 2400K to 2700K. Made it. Here we are. So this is as dim as it gets in the color. Okay, watch how it changes in just a few seconds. Right there. So when I compare this to the really bright light, this probably looked pretty orange, but now compared to what we were just at, this probably looks white, which is good. That's exactly what I wanted. With working on these different color temperatures, that's how we experience it in real life also. Let me just start the game again. This is still 2700K, but when we start the real game, we can see, oh yes, this is less yellow. It's very white, and it's also very bright. So this, compared to how things looked at the end of the game, is substantially different. And that's what I wanted. So I think this change was pretty successful, both in terms of the primary goal of showing off graphics technology and showing the different color temperatures and how that works with my eye adaptation code and HDR tone mapping, but also from a game design perspective. I'm pretty happy with how effective it is. By the time you get to the end there and things are dark and more orange, you definitely feel kind of like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, and then it's so strange to compare to strange in a good way, to compare to the first of the game like this. And let's compare one more time to the intro. There we are. We have our 2700K, and now it probably does look a little bit orange. Again, this is just how our eyes work in real life. So those are the changes to lighting that I've implemented to try and give some nice pacing and change over the course of a single game. Thank you for watching.